wonder what you've all done, but you feel so guilty that you think you need to mutter up. Curious to find what dead animals are in my office this time, Caleb. Wherever you are. Yeah, makes me antsy. Actually, this is a good segue. I want to make an announcement to you, and I've got kind of two things I want to say within it before we get started. Tonight is our annual youth pie auction. There are two things I want to talk to you about here. The Lord has opened up an unusually large door of ministry for us right now. If I could confess to you the places that I'm not very good, I have not reached out to the high schools and to the middle schools and the elementaries and said, send me all your students. We open the doors, and we are flooded. We average 50 students every Wednesday night who come in the door and want to know who Jesus is. They want to meet sponsors and adults who care about them, or they just need a community that is not harmful. Did you know over the last year we have had over 190 teenagers come through our doors, different students, who get here the opportunity to encounter the Jesus that we serve. That is an incredible door of ministry that the Lord has opened here. Oh, wow. And we have a middle school that's like a quarter of a mile away. Due to the way that the schools are realigning, next year we will have another middle school sandwiched between us and that middle school. And so the door to ministry only grows wider and wider. After the Easter service last week, I want to try not to spend too long here. These minutes don't count against my sermon time. These are not good. After the Easter service, we were kind of going through some of the struggles of how you deal with so many people in a large room, and one of the staff members said, praise God. We have to ask, how do we handle all these people who are hungry for the gospel on Easter Sunday? There are so many churches that are just desperate for somebody to walk in the door. On our district, there are churches who are desperate for one teenager to come into their church. Praise God. Now, here's the flip side of that. We need your help. We can do this on nothing. We can do it for free, but we can do it better when you help us out, and we can raise the money that we need to do. So we want you to come. We want you to participate in our youth pie auction tonight. We want you to bring your wallet and your checkbook and write a lot of zeros, right? But I suspect there are a lot of people in the room who really it's not in your abilities to write me a lot of zeros. I get that. And if I could say this, would you please come to the pie auction, even if you don't intend to give anything? Don't come and give me money that you can't give, but come and be a part of the community. This group, we spend so much time working hard together. We need to spend a little bit more time playing together. We need to spend a little bit more time sitting around the table, having dinner, eating pie, and laughing at an auctioneer who can make you bid against yourself. He's good. So even if you don't plan to give, the room is not the same when you're not there. We're not the same community when you're at home and we're all together. So even if you don't plan to give, come on in and just come and enjoy a free meal, and somebody at the table is going to buy a pie, and you're going to have work there. Good? Okay, now you can start the clock on the sermon time. We're going to shift over. Brian was telling you a few minutes ago that we're going to be in a Sabbath series here that we're starting. I'm going to choose a passage this morning that is not going to sound like Sabbath at the start. That's okay. Hang with me, okay? This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 22. We're going to be in verses 1 through 13. And again, that's 2 Kings 22, verses 1 through 13. Would you stand with me for the reading of God's word this morning? Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jediah, daughter of Adiah of Bosca. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord and walked in all the ways of his father David. He did not turn aside to the right or to the left. In the 18th year of King Josiah, the king sent Shaphan, son of Azaliah, son of Meshullam, the secretary, to the house of the Lord, saying, go up to the priest, to the high priest Hilkiah, and have him count the entire sum of money that's been brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the threshold have collected from the people. Let it be given into the hand of the workers who have the oversight of the house of the Lord. Let them give it to the workers who are at the house of the Lord repairing the house. That is, to the carpenters, to the builders, to the masons, and let them use it to buy timber and quarried stone to repair the house. But no accounting shall be asked from them for the money that is delivered into their hand, for they deal honestly. The high priest Hilkiah said to Shaphan the secretary, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. When Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, he read it. Then Shaphan the secretary came to the king and reported to the king,
Your servants have emptied out the money that was found in the house and have delivered it into the hands of our workers, who have oversight of the house of the Lord. Shaphan the secretary informed the king, the priest Hilkiah has given me a book. Shaphan then read it aloud to the king. When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. Then the king commanded the priest Hilkiah, Ahikam, son of Shaphan, Akbor, son of Micaiah, Shaphan the secretary, and the king's servant Asaiah, saying, Go inquire of the Lord for me, for the people, and for all Judah concerning the words of this book that's been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our ancestors did not obey the words of this book, to do according to all that is written concerning us. This is the word of the Lord for us today.
Thanks be to God.
Receive it. Father, this morning, would you continue to draw us into your Spirit? Father, may we continue to encounter you as a God of hope and peace, who desires what is good for us. We need you and we love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. I have two little girls, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and on baby day, I can honestly tell you they are the cutest children who have ever roamed the face of the earth. And I know that some of you have maybe even here a child or a grandchild. You would say, no, mine is cuter. You are in fact wrong. And I can prove this, right? I can just show them to you later. Mine are cuter. They are in fact conversation magnets. I walk into a public place and I unleash the girls into whatever room we're in, and almost every time somebody walks up to me, they say, Hi there. Hello. Those your girls? They are. How old? 3 and 6. They are so cute. Yes, they are. Thank you very much. And they almost every time have the same conversation with me. They grab me by the arm. They look me in the eye. They say, don't miss it. It goes by so fast. This has in fact become a prayer of the Lord. Lord, please don't let me miss my life. Here, it's not that I'm going to fall into a coma one day, just wake up and be like, oh, I missed my whole life. But we all know these pressures that push in against us, these things that have to be done every day. They're just one after the other after the other. And somehow we can get so engrossed in those things that have to be done that we manage to miss the parts of life that we most desire. I believe this passage begins calling out to us, don't miss it. Don't miss it. Now, for the passage to really make sense, I think that you need a little bit more context. You'll remember that Saul was anointed the king over Israel. That things started out okay, but then they kind of soured and things went south with Saul. And so King David is anointed king over Israel. And again, things start out well, but sin enters the picture and things go bad with David. And so Solomon, David's son, becomes king over Israel. We all remember Solomon as Solomon the Wise. A couple of you. That's good. That's a trick question. That's good. Solomon is considered Solomon the Wise. He wrote, was credited with the book of Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastes, the Song of Solomon. He wrote all of these different things. And yet, sometimes we can tell more about a person after they die than when they're alive. After Solomon dies, his son Rehoboam comes to power. Rehoboam is standing before the people. The people approach him and say, King, your father was a harsh man. In fact, it turns out Solomon seemed to have enslaved the Israelite people to his own things, as you read between the lines. They say, will you lighten our yoke, or will you treat us like your father did? Rehoboam goes back and he consults the elders and the advisors, and they tell him, King, if you will serve these people today, they will serve you for the rest of their lives. Rehoboam foolishly discards this advice, goes back to the people and says, I will be harder on you than my father ever was. Where he disciplines you with whips, I will discipline you with scorpions. Oh, loving words from your benevolent king. The people revolt. They say no. They secede from the nation. All of a sudden, Israel splits, and there is the nation of Judah that is ruled by Rehoboam, who is going to be harsh, and there's the nation of Israel now, who is ruled by a new king called Jeroboam. There are two. From this point, Israel and Judah seem to be in competition as to who can decay the fastest, who can fall apart first. The book of 1st and 2nd Kings are depressing, because as you read them, it says so-and-so became king. They did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. They died. So-and-so became king. They did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. And it's just over and over and over. You start to grit your teeth. What is going on? These kings, they build golden calves for all of the nations to worship. They go up to the places of significance, the high places, and make temples to foreign gods. They totally abandon and forget the law of God. It's not long until the nation of Assyria comes up, their mighty nation, and they declare war on Israel. In an act of discipline, God allows Israel to be wiped off the face of the earth. Israel is totally destroyed by the nation of Assyria. Assyria then turns its vision to Judah, the last remnant of Israel, and marches. There's a new king who's born named Hezekiah. It said of Hezekiah, he did what was right before the Lord. He turns Judah back and says, no, we must return to the Lord. In mercy, God spares Judah, turns back Assyria, and loves Hezekiah. Until Hezekiah dies, and Assyria is turned back away, and then Judah returns to her old ways, worshiping the foreign gods of the land. That's where we come up to the story we just read. Josiah then is born. It said of Josiah, he was like Hezekiah, and that he did what was right before the Lord. And then the story kind of skips ahead just a little bit. It says, in his 18th year, Josiah sent his secretary off to the house of the Lord, where remodeling is taking place. Renovations are being made. Now, I have to tell you, this surprises me just a little bit, that there are renovations being made in the house of the Lord. Because after so many generations of being forgotten and abandoned, I pretty well expect the house of the Lord to have fallen over. And they got to build a whole new thing, right? But the house is still standing, they're renovating, and what's more, it apparently has still been in use. Because it's been collecting money. There's money to be gotten. Now let me ask you, if we shut the doors to Trinity for 50 or 60 or 100 years, how many folks are still going to write us a tithe check every week? Probably not too many, right? But something is still happening in the house of the Lord, that money is being written over. As we study, we find that the house of the Lord has been used for worshiping the foreign gods of the land. My grandmother had this large farm, and I'd go out there for Thanksgiving whenever we go out and visit. I remember one Thanksgiving being out at the farm and being just bored out of my mind. Now, as a small boy, I solved this problem thinking the one thing that could get me out of this is a pocket knife. If I had a pocket knife, boredom would be dispelled and I could survive in the wilderness. I don't know why wilderness survival is the solution to all boredom, but you can ask any little boy in the world if wilderness survival is the end of boredom, and the answer is yes, that'll do it. And so I'm thinking, well, I need a knife, I'm going to survive. Nobody's going to give me a knife. And it occurs to me, the only person who might understand my plight is Grandma Lee. And so I go into the kitchen where she's frantically cooking. There are adults everywhere, moving pots and pans and setting the table. I tuck on her shirt tail and say, Grandma, yes, I need a knife. In hindsight, I think she thought I was helping to set the table. She opens the silverware drawer, pulls out a butter knife, says, there you go, slams it shut and goes right back to work. I was stoked. I didn't think she was really going to give me a knife. Now granted, the edge was a little dull, what with it being for cutting soft butter. But I had a knife, and I was ready to go. So I went outside, and I had seen the art of the butter knife before. I knew what that thing was for, so I started finding all the rusty screws around the place. Tightening those things down, hammering down all the nails that were sticking up. And then I thought, well, it's survival time. If anybody comes after me, I'm going to need good rocks to throw. So I went out to the gravel road. And would you believe that all the good rocks were buried? And so I took that knife and I started to carve them out of the road. I got a little twisted and scuffed up, but let's be honest, that's just character. And so I dug out the good rocks. Having my rocks and having done all the work there was to do, I needed a spear in case any animals should come after me. And I thought, I've got to find a good stick, and I can whittle it to a spear. There were no good sticks. So I climbed a tree, I picked my branch, I took my trusty butter knife saw, and I started to cut down the tree branch. And I'm sawing away furiously, and I guess the quality of the knife was lacking, because as I'm sawing, it bends over like this. And I'm sitting up here in the tree going, oh, well, I can't saw with it like that. So I push it against the tree branch and start folding it back, and my knife snaps in 2 pieces. And so I'm hanging from the tree, trying to piece together Grandma's fine silver, and here comes my cousin. He says, Travis, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm cutting down a tree branch. What does it look like I'm doing? It's like, what are you using? Knife? Is that Grandma's butter knife? Yeah. Hey, you shouldn't be doing that. She gave it to me. Yeah, but that's not what it's for. That's not what she meant for you to do with it. You better take that back inside. She's not going to be too happy about this. All of a sudden, the pieces start flying together. I realize I'm holding Grandma's fine silver, and I start to remember the things that I've been doing with Grandma's fine silver. Church, listen. Somehow we in Judah have managed to take to using the house of the Lord for things that was never intended to be used for. And the results have been catastrophic. Now for Judah, this was the brick and the mortar temple of the Lord. For us, I think it's these fleshy bodies that house the Spirit of God. Somehow we managed to get ourselves into the situation where we worship the foreign gods of the land. Hear me? I don't mean we have these little idols sitting on our shelf at home and we bow down and worship them every night before we go to bed. But when God, the almighty dollar, comes out, we pay homage. We work the long hours, make sacrifices. We'll spend all of our day, if only we can get just a little bit more of that God. When the God of significance says, come here and worship me, we'll gather the degrees, the abilities, the trainings. We'll transform our personality so that we can be more valuable to the people around us. There is nothing we won't do to have that experience of feeling needed, of feeling valued. When the God of shame calls out to us, bow your head, we think, what if something's amazing? What if I don't always look young and fit and fresh into my 90s? What if my children don't have every modern convenience that there could be? And so we keep busy and we keep up appearances because we're not going to disappoint that God. Before I worked at Trinity, I served as a missionary abroad in Arkansas. It's a mission, trust me. Now, when I went to go interview at this church, I found out that they were a little bit different than others. They were in a unique situation. They had determined that it was time to move from the building that they were in to the edge of the town, where there were new homes going up and new families were moving into the area. They had broken ground on the new church, and they had decided it could take a while to sell a church building. There aren't always a lot of buyers lined up for churches, and so they went ahead and put it on the market. Would you believe that immediately another church body came and said, we would love to have that building. They put in an offer, and the old church building was sold right away. That's great. The problem is, the old church building is gone. The new church building is still just a field of dirt that looks kind of smooth, and there's no place for the church in the middle to meet. So they got creative. They bought a house and used it as office space. They made a sweet deal with a middle school to use their cafeteria. They created this mobile sanctuary that you could put into trailers. And every Sunday morning at 5:30 a.m., the men of the church would come together, unload these trailers into the cafeteria, set up the mobile sanctuary, and we would have our worship service right there in the cafeteria. I remember at my interview, the pastor said, you don't have to, but if you want to, tomorrow you can be there at 5 before setup, and we could, set up together. Now listen, in a job interview, when somebody says, you don't have to, but what it means is, if you want to work here, I'll see you at 5. And so I showed up at 5. Now, as a young pastor, I had a lot to learn about how the church worked and about how I would operate in that church. The church called this a season of their ministry, and I call it an education, because I was learning what ministry pace was like. We get up early, we stay late, we go home just long enough to sleep so that we can get back to work. This pace continued. Long after the building was built, we were moved in, we hired this old man. His name was Jim Stocks. He was from Alabama. He had this thick southern accent, and his whole deal, he was a PhD who would come to churches and stay there for several years and try to figure out what changes could be made to improve the ministry of the church. He got in this habit of walking past my office, seeing this youth pastor frantic, doing what he was doing, and he'd stop and say, Fred, how about a taco? Look at my watch going, it's lunchtime. Jim had this love obsession with Taco Bueno. And seriously, they bought him a t-shirt at Taco Bueno because he was there every day for years. He knew everyone in the store. And so he would take me and have the slowest conversation I have ever had in all my life. Seriously, the man was so slow, he would stop in the middle of his sentence, look at that taco, take a bite, chew it, take a drink, stop and ponder, and then pick back up in the middle of the same sentence he had stopped in. For months I interrupted the man because I didn't understand the pace of the conversation. He would take a bite and I would think, Jim is eating, my turn to speak. False! This is not the way it works. We would get in this rhythm where we'd go for weeks on end without taking a day off, without ever stopping to rest or really even see our families in large amount. And Jim would see me dragging into the office on a morning, and he would say, Trev, where your golf clubs at? I'd say, at the house? Why don't you
run on back to the house, get your clothes, I'll meet you a big shug, we'll play around golf, have taco. Look around and go, Jimmy, have you seen what I have to do? I don't have time to play golf today. If I don't get in the next 5 minutes, the boss man's going to kill me. And he would stop me and go, oh, that'd be all right. You run on and get your clothes now. I remember one year we had our annual fall festival. And the church was frantic. You know, you've seen these kinds of things where you're trying to pull something together at the last minute, and it's just not lining up the way it's supposed to. The staff is panicked, the volunteers are running ragged, and we're all just kind of living in this tension. And as we're nearing down to the moment the community is going to walk in, I look up, and here comes the 70-something Jim Stocks, strolling into the church in a full-on bright purple suit, complete with bright purple pants, bright purple jacket, bright purple vest, a bright purple hat with the feather in it, the cane, and the white wingtip shoes, strolling like he's the finest thing ever to hit the street. And all of a sudden, the whole place just stops. Jimmy, what you got there? Oh, you like my suit? It's a fine suit. Where did you get such a thing? The man looks at me and he says, well, you know, I served for it all the years as a missionary in Africa. He said, so you bought the suit in Africa? Nope. He said, would you believe someone thought that a missionary in Africa ought to have a nice suit? So they bought this, paid to have it shipped on a boat to me so I could wear it in the African villages. He said, could you imagine me strolling out of the jungle in this thing, Trav? I am rolling on the floor laughing at this man's bright purple suit, and here in the greatest tension of the year with all the volunteers maxed out, this guy is strolling around in this thing with the feather popped up. Just going like, what is going on? Jim had this incredible ability to see these moments in which I would forget that life was happening. These moments when my work, when the gods of the land were pressing in and taking over, he could say, Travis, don't miss it. Life is happening right now. Stop. Rest. Work isn't life, work is work. Let's sit down and have a talk. Let's go golf. Let's make fun of this really bad suit. Yeah, we're going to get the other stuff done later. But you weren't made to be a slave. You were made to live. It's interesting to me, all of the other gods of the land, all of the other false gods that I can think of, every single one of them always demands more, more, more. They are never, ever satisfied. I could spend my whole life working, trying to give them everything they want. I could die in the effort and they wouldn't even care. Oh well. And yet our God is the only God who calls out, stop. Come and rest. Come and sit down and really live for a minute. Our God calls out in the voice of Jim Stocks. Don't miss it. What's more, this isn't just like something that God says, well, whenever you get a free minute, or maybe once we get enough of the projects done, we can do this. Look at the creation narrative. Day 6, humanity is created. What happens on day 7? Rest. Day 6 we're made. On day 7, God says, let's have Sabbath. It's as though the priority of our life is not to work and then to rest, but to rest. And once the rest is finished, then we'll get to work. Can I make a confession to you? There have been some days in which this church, Trinity, church staff, has sounded a little bit like the gods of the land. We have forgotten what it is to rest, to slow down, to enjoy the goodness of God, and we call to you, could you do this? Could you do this? Could you give me these minutes? I have a volunteer opportunity for you. And in an effort to be faithful to Jesus, you say yes, 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 and follow us into this sacrifice of Sabbath. Now hear me, it's not the work that we're doing that's the problem. We believe the work we're doing is good. We believe God led us into the work we're doing. We want to keep doing the work that we're doing. But it's this pace, this rigorous schedule, that doesn't seem reflective of the kingdom of God. It's a little bit more reflective of
slavery of Egypt that we have to be rid of. And so as a staff, we're asking for forgiveness. Just kind of got lost on that. We need you to keep us focused on that Sabbath rhythm that has to be reinstilled. And we're working to say, how can we reinstill this Sabbath rhythm back into our congregation? Well, one of the most obvious places you're going to see this is we're moving Celebrate Life CL from Sunday night to Wednesday night in the hope that we can create a space that is free to enjoy the goodness of God. In my own life, I've got work to do. I'm not there yet. In my own life, the voices of the gods of the land are strong. And when I hear the command of God to this lost and forgotten idea of Sabbath, to say, why don't you take one whole day every week to not work? My first response is, God, have you seen my schedule? That ain't happening. I can't do that. And then I am drawn back to that prayer that I find myself in. Lord, please help me not to miss my life. What if Sabbath rest is the way in which God is answering my prayer? And so today there's a choice before us. Choose for you and your family who you'll serve. Will you serve the gods of the land who always want more, and will never, ever be satisfied? Or do you serve the God of goodness, grace, and peace, who calls out to us, rest, come eat tacos, play golf, let's make fun of really bad suits together. Lord, in these moments, would you help us not to miss it? The struggle is real for us today, Lord. The tensions between that which we want to accomplish, the tensions between that which has to be accomplished, and the life that we don't want to miss. Father, would you begin speaking in our hearts? Would you begin pointing out the places which could be surrendered more to you? Would you make them evident? And Lord, would you give us the faith to say yes to you?